Well, this story started a long time ago because it happened when I was just a young man. And that was a long time ago. I spent the early part of the winter one year in a cabin on the side of 2 Mile Mountain. That name probably rings a bell for you. As everybody knows, 2 Mile Mountain is the coldest place south of north. In fact, the only thing to break the wind between the North Pole and the little pine tree standing by my cabin door was a 2-strand barbed wire fence 100 miles away. And that year, 1 strand of wire had fallen down. It was exceptionally cold that year. But I had a good supply of firewood. I had plenty of biscuit flour and beans in my cupboard. I was doing all right. Well, then it started getting close to Christmas. And I began to wish I would have something a little fancier to eat for Christmas. I guess I was thinking about all of the good Christmas dinners I'd had at my mother's table when I was a kid. So when Christmas Eve arrived that year, I decided I was going to go hunting for a wild turkey, and I would have turkey for my Christmas dinner. The first thing I did was to build up the fire in the fireplace so that the cabin would be warm when I got back. I put on good warm clothes and I got my shotgun and I set out hunting for turkey. Ooh, it was cold that morning. The air kind of made a crackling sound as I walked through it, sort of like that sound you hear when you break the thin skin of ice on a puddle on a cold morning. But I thought, oh, it'll warm up a little bit later. No, I was wrong about that. It kept getting colder and colder. It got so cold that the only way I could move was by breaking my way through the frozen air with the butt end of my shotgun. I said to myself, the only turkey who's going to be out in this kind of weather is me. I'm going back to the cabin. So I turned around and slowly I broke my way through the air until I got home. And when I got back to the cabin, do you know what I saw? At the top of the little pine tree beside my cabin door, there was a big, fat turkey gobbler. I thought, oh, I guess I believe in Santa Claus after all. I raised my shotgun and pulled the trigger. There was no sound. It was so cold that the report from my shotgun got frozen in the air before it even reached my ears. And the shot only got about 10 feet away from the end of the barrel. It started skidding and losing traction in the icy air, and it came sliding right back at me. If I hadn't ducked my head in time, I wouldn't be here to tell you about it. If my hat hadn't been frozen to my head, it would have been shot off. That was the last straw. I went into the cabin. I went over by the fireplace and pulled off my gloves, and I held my hands up close to the flames. There was no heat. And then I noticed the flames were not moving. It was so cold, the fire in my fireplace had frozen solid. Each flame just stood there like an upside-down icicle, giving off an orangish glow. I reached in and broke off one of those flames. It wasn't hot at all. It was kind of smooth and shiny and a little bit slippery. In fact, it was more than a little bit slippery. It slid out of my fingers and it landed on the rock in front of the fireplace and shattered into pieces. Each little chip of flame lay there on the rock, giving off a pale orange or yellow or bluish glow. You know what that reminded me of? Christmas lights. Christmas lights the people would have decorating their houses and their Christmas trees all over the towns and cities throughout the country. I said to myself, well, maybe I can't have turkey for Christmas dinner. And maybe I can't be warm and comfortable, but I'm going to have a Christmas tree. I got some string and I tied a little piece of string around each broken chip of fire. I carried them all outside and I hung them on the branches of the pine tree by my cabin door, from the very bottom branches up as high as I could reach. I stepped back and looked at my work. I thought, that's beautiful. It made me feel a little bit better. And then I went inside. I piled every blanket I could find on the bed. I climbed under those blankets and I fell right to sleep. I was so exhausted by the cold that I slept away the whole day. I slept all through the night. I didn't wake up until the next morning. And what woke me up was the sound of a shotgun, bam, going off right outside my cabin. I went diving under the bed, wondering who was after me and what for. And then I realized the cold must have let up a little bit, just enough for the sound of my shot from the day before to finally reach my ears. I climbed out from under the bed feeling kind of sheepish. I walked over to the door and I opened it, and I was struck by a blast of heat because all of those little chips of fire had thawed out and they set the pine tree ablaze. It's nothing short of a miracle that my whole cabin didn't go up in flames as well. I turned away from the door, thinking I was about as foolish as a man who tries to find out if his gas tank is empty by lighting a match and looking into it. But then I noticed a delicious smell. I looked up, and sure enough, the fire had cooked the turkey at the top of the tree. It had roasted it to a turn. I found a long pole and knocked that turkey down and got everything ready for my Christmas dinner. But do you know what? That poor bird was so starved that the more of it I ate, the hungrier I got. I must have poked down 10 pounds of turkey, and my stomach was still feeling like my throat had been cut. I said, I am leaving this place right now. I whipped up a batch of biscuits. I ate until I was full. I gathered all my gear together and I left there, swearing an oath to myself that I would spend the rest of my Christmases at home where I belong. And that is what I have done too.